On this edition of Dan Shonka's Scouting Section, we preview the College Football National Championship game by getting Dan's analysis on the top players to keep an eye on for the 2018 NFL Draft, including Minkah Fitzpatrick for Alabama, Kwan Smith for Georgia, and much more. As the OFN Scouting Section with Dan Shonka on the Our Lads Football Radio Network starts now. All right, it's Monday, January 8th, 2018. I'm Greg DePalma. You're listening to the Our Lads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. And one more game to go for the college football season. We still have several more weeks to go in the NFL, and then we really start getting into NFL draft talk. Of course, we have about a week to go before the players declare, so we know exactly who's going to be in the draft. But this is definitely, if you haven't already been paying attention to us on a year-round basis, what's wrong with you? But now is definitely the time to do it, as all the fans of teams that are basically sitting there and their teams are out and eliminated, you know what's next. It's free agency and the draft, and we're going to be here every step of the way to get you ready. So let's talk about the game tonight. Bring in Dan Shonka, and it's been almost about a month since we've last spoken, Dan. A lot's been going on. Hope you had a nice Christmas, holidays, and New Year.
I did, Greg, and it's always good to talk to you because I tell you, it's I know the more I talk to you, the closer we get to the draft, and it's hard to believe this is the last college football game of the year because it just seemed like it flew by this year, and then with the wild card weekend this past weekend, getting over, and now this big game tonight, things are on a downward fast roll to the NFL draft.
Yeah, and of course, right now I know you are really, as usual, this time of year, you're very busy with juniors more than anything, because you still have to find out which juniors are coming out. And again, as I mentioned, we got about a week to go there before we actually know who is going to be coming out. And then next week, you've got the East-West. I know you're going to be there. Week after that, it's the Senior Bowl. So a very busy few weeks. And you that's the thing, though, that really keeps you busy is getting to have to understand and figure out which juniors are coming out and make sure that you have as much film and tape on them. And then, of course, let everybody know who that is.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and you always project certain guys to come out. So you're in summertime, you're looking at them in their sophomore tape and everything, and then you look at them in the fall on their junior tape, and you don't know 100% who's coming out. There's always, a lot of surprises. I won't say a few. I think there's more than a few surprises, but I think, a lot of guys you can project, and then you wonder on some others why they're coming out, especially when you have horrible years like two quarterbacks that both declared, and Josh Allen and Darnold from USC. So both those guys are needed to, and of course everybody's going to say, okay, go ahead and draft them and then develop. Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. So you might as well chuck that idea.
But anyway, that'll happen, though. That'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be the top two picks.
And what happens is they don't get developed because coaches got to win now or they get fired. So,
That's
it's
right.
So it's a crazy thing goes on so, and then but hey, it's going to happen. So, we'll just let that happen to whoever, and I hope, Baker Mayfield goes to a place that they believe in him and give him a chance, because if they do, then they may have a Drew Brees on their hands down the line.
I certainly hope so, especially since nobody's been touting him for the Jets more than I have for about 3 months now. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Speaking of juniors, Kwan Smith, he's the top junior. You tell me, is he the top junior in the game today?
Well,
tonight,
I'll tell you what, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think, is probably the top guy because, he can play any position in the secondary and a lot more.
Oh, that's right. Fitzpatrick's a junior. Correct. Yeah, I should have said, yeah. So he's the best player. How high can Fitzpatrick go? Top 5, right?
Oh, yeah. He's a top 5. Definitely. Hey, I know some of my colleagues out there think he's a top 3 player along with Barkley, and some of my colleagues in the league don't even have a quarterback in that first hole. So, but anyway, yeah, Mink is very well thought of.
And when you compare him to, because we've talked a lot last year, of course, about Lattimore being potentially the top corner of the draft, but he had all the injury history. Now he's healthy so far. He missed, I think, one game maybe. But that's the thing about him just staying healthy. But we knew the talent was there. So how does he compare to, say, even someone like Lattimore? Different type of player, isn't he, Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, right. He is. Lattimore wasn't or isn't as versatile, but he is a heck of a corner, and he very well may be the defensive NFL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, he got 5 picks. I don't know if he got one. I can't remember if he got one yesterday or not, but I mean, he made some great plays and broke up, just broke on the ball really well. But Fitzpatrick is, I guess you'd say a little better than that if you can say, here, this guy's going to be NFL Rookie of the Year, and then this guy coming in is going to be pretty good. So,
sure.
I mean, I think Minka is he's just more versatile. Like, he can play a nickel safety. He can play either free or strong safety. He'll be your starting corner out there, a matchup guy, because he's big, he's strong. So I think with all that versatility and everything, that's going to help him. And like I said, he's probably a top 3. If you threw the quarterbacks out, he's a better player than some of the quarterbacks. But everybody goes bananas over those quarterbacks. So, but he's a top. You could argue. I mean, I like Barkley as the top player, but we got Fitzpatrick right there, heads up with him.
Yeah, you got to believe that, especially after what Lattimore just did with the Saints. And look, I understand that they've added some other players, even though some of those guys are gone now, like Okafor, due to injury. But this Saint defense has been miles better this year, which is why they're in the position they're in. And Lattimore is a major reason because of that. So don't you think that it's a copycat league, that they're going to look and they're going to say, look at one cover corner guy can do to my defense, and maybe Fitzpatrick will get drafted where he should get drafted. Maybe he'll go in the first couple of picks.
Well, I tell you what, he may, but I bet he doesn't get by 4 at Cleveland.
Yeah,
so,
that's the decision they're going to have to make, is whether or not do you think the Browns go corner, quarterback, or running back, quarterback. I mean, that's going to be a tough decision, isn't it?
Yeah, they need a corner. What they could do though is, because there's going to be a lot of running backs, they could say, okay, we'll go ahead and take a quarterback, and then Fitzpatrick at 4. So even though Barkley to me is a generational type back, I could see them doing that. Take another running back later with their multiple second-round picks. And because there's going to be a ton of them in that second round. Boy, you look at 3 of the guys we're talking about tonight could very well be sitting there for them, and Damian Harris and Chubb and Michelle, Michael, they all could be sitting there. Those 3 guys be sitting there in the second round.
Yeah, how do you separate those guys right now? Can you easily, not easily, but is there how do you if you rank them right now between those 3, who do you like right now?
Well, I like Chubb the best of the 3. I mean, Harris to me is strictly a runner, a 2-down running back. They don't really throw the ball a lot to him or anything. Mm-hmm. And then Scarborough, the other one, is definitely a downhill back. Now, they threw a couple passes to him and, last week's game and things, but he's more of just kind of like Henry, that a big guy that's a downhill runner, got physical guy and everything. And I think he's probably going to end up going in the, 3rd or 4th round, more likely the 4th, just because he's not multi-dimensional. He can catch okay, but he's just a big downhill, he doesn't get a lot of juke to him. He's just going to run you over. Harris is a slasher, and, teams that will want to have him in their rotation, but, he's more of a 2-down back. And really Chubb hasn't been super developed as a receiver, but he's just got a real knack They're both similar in size, about 228 pounds. But Chubb is I just got him rated ahead of him because of when I study the film on both those guys, I got more pluses on Chubb, the way that, he drives his legs on contact and he's just really tough to tackle. But, you could argue Harris is the same thing, but my preference right now would be Chubb. And then, Sony would be third of the three. And then I have him ahead of Scarborough because he can catch the ball a little bit better and things like that.
Yeah, actually, Mike Huguenin was on with me several times, including last week from Gridiron Now, big SEC writer, and he's not high on Scarborough. He thinks Scarborough tries to juke too much, should be more of a physical back. Definitely thinks that he needs more time. But Sony Michel, definitely the top three as far as receivers, and that could also go a long way depending on which team is going to be looking for a running back if those three are on the board, right? And even though, as you mentioned, we don't know the skill set as a receiver for Chubb as much as Michel, but hey, the NFL right now with these receiving, we look at Kamara and his ability and what he's transformed with the Saints, not just, of course, as a receiver, but an overall player, and guys like that are definitely wanted at the next level.
Yeah, that's why, I wouldn't be shocked that Michel would go ahead of Chubb in the draft, but, I think that Chubb is the better because
I agree.
Michel has been injured, more, and, Chubb's only had the knee that time and he had the surgery and he's been running. Anybody that's, right behind Herschel Walker, you think of all the great running backs that have been in Georgia, and he's number two.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's good enough resume for me.
No, I agree. I said that on the show last week with Mike that I like Chubb. Chubb is my guy out of those, and he does just even though he's only a few pounds or possibly a few pounds bigger than Michel, he actually he looks bigger. He seems to run bigger, as you said. He just seems to be more physical, and that's what I like about him. So.
Yep. That's a good point, Greg. You could say, hey, he runs big.
Yeah.
And he does.
What about Calvin Ridley? He is clearly the best receiver on the field today. How does he rank to former receivers from Alabama like Amari Cooper, who is highly sought of? Of course, he's inconsistent right now in his career, but Ridley, a different type of receiver. But where does he go at the next level?
Well, I think that he in this draft, he could very well be, one of the top three receivers taken. He's kind of a slot explosive guy. He can run by people. And, the big thing is Hurt doesn't always get the ball out to him,
That's true.
He can certainly, he can run by people, but doesn't do any good if Hurt can't get the ball to him, and the timing's not there. But, I think that, how to compare you've got, of course, you got Jones, the big physical receiver for Atlanta, who's a former, tied receiver. And then, you got Cooper, who's, I don't know if he just completely has fallen off the map or his brains have scrambled or what, but, I heard it. He was kind of a pain in the rear end at the combine and all kinds of stuff. He didn't get along with people, and maybe all that stuff is rearing its head right now out in Oakland, and then, you always heard about, he's a great work ethic and all that. Well, sometimes that just gets to be a BS machine out there, and so we want to see him pick up the game a little bit. And of course, with Gruden coming out there, I'm sure Gruden will be chewing on his behind and telling him how great he is. And then as soon as he drops a few balls, he'll cut him, but anyway, but I think Calvin Ridley, with his explosiveness, will bring a dimension to a team that, he'll probably, could get drafted by, first of all, he's probably going to get drafted maybe a little bit later or say in the bottom third of the draft, and he's going to be with a good team. So.
Yeah, he's definitely, believe it or not, because I actually think he will be a sleeper. I think he's going to. I just, and now who knows if he has a big game, of course, tonight, then he won't be a sleeper anymore. But I just get the feeling he's going to be a sleeper as far as the draft and receivers are concerned, and we'll see. What about? By the way, with Georgia, I tell you what, they don't have any dynamic star receivers. But, when I watch them play, their receivers make catches. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with any of these receivers. I mean, I got a couple of good ones, Wims and Godwin are good players. I mean, do you think any of them have a shot at the next level?
Yeah, I think Wims does. He's a big, I don't know if you know how big he is, but he's close to 6'3", and he's about 217 pounds, somewhere in there. And, and he's going to be playing in the East-West Shrine game.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully he doesn't get hurt, tonight or anything, but he's scheduled to play in the game. And he's a big receiver that's really been their go-to guy on this playoff run. So, big, strong guy. He caught, he catches, he get in the end zone and he can out-muscle and out-body people. He's, like I say, he's tall enough, close to 6'3", but he's also very physical at, 217 pounds. So, yeah, I think that, and he'll be a slot-type receiver, I think, on the next level. And,
okay.
And, he'll be going inside for on slant patterns and stuff like that, and he's not afraid to do it.
Getting back to Kwan Smith, I don't know if you watch enough Georgia football games. I know a lot of fans who don't watch a whole lot of college until the big games. And hopefully, of course, they did watch the Rose Bowl, especially the second half. They got an opportunity to see a guy that we've been watching all year. This kid's a stud. And I just love Kwan Smith. How high has his stock risen just in the past several months?
Well, I think, he's that guy that people are looking for now because he's not a big guy.
No.
And that always bothered me. He's less than 220 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's, usually that's a kiss of death for a linebacker. But now, hey, you want a guy that can run, can stay on the field for, all the downs. He can cover because he can run so well. And he's, always around the ball. So he's probably, I really hate to go out on a big limb because of his size, but I mean, people are playing with those smaller linebackers now. They go usually in the second round, those type of guys, but he's a little bit better than that group that they've been taking in Atlanta and everything, Dukes and that group. So I think that he's going to go, probably in that 15. Again, it's going to depend on his running and all that, but I'm going to say somewhere 15 to 20, somewhere in there.
Yeah. All right. And who else should we be keeping an eye on that you really like in the game tonight? But for both teams, because again, there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball with these two teams. You got Dominic Sanders and Lorenzo Carter, a couple of other big names for Georgia. And of course, you got Payne and Hand for Alabama. You got Evans, and then Everett in the secondary. And then they got players that aren't even going to be there, like Deion Hamilton. And I know Anthony Jennings is only a sophomore, but I fell in love with him after last week's game. So you tell me, who do you really like?
Well, you missed one of their best ones, Ronnie Harris.
Ronnie Harrison, correct? Yep. There's so many of them. Yeah, I know. It's just. I mean,
number 15. Keep an eye on him because he's always around the ball, and so he's going to be good. Then they got their two corners, Levi Wallace. He's not he's 168 pounds, but now if he gets matched up with Wims, I'll tell you what, Wims may win those because he's more physical, but. Wallace has got good short area quickness. Everett, the other corner, 28. Is really quick and make plays. Like I said, I want to see Deron Payne do something more than catch touchdown passes. I want him to
MVP.
I want him to dominate.
I know. I mean, they gave him the MVP. Jennings should have won the MVP in my mind, but he scored a touchdown, so he got the MVP. Yeah. So good for him.
But you're right though. Jennings had a great football game.
Yeah, but he's out. So he's only a sophomore anyway. So any of these other players be first-round draft picks? Give me the first-round draft picks on the field today.
Tonight.
Well,
you talked about Smith. He'll be in the first. And then Minka, he'll be a top 5 or top 3 pick. Harrison will go in the first round. Payne will go in the first round. And Ridley will go in the first round. So we got 5 of them.
Yes, and Lorenzo Carter, is he the second best Bulldog on defense?
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you one thing. Bellamy played a heck of a game in the Rose Bowl. Good football player, but yeah, I think Carter is. Carter will be the next one, and then Bellamy, and so there's you go to our color coded depth charts, and you see a lot of purples and reds and stuff like that, which are higher graded guys. The black or the 7th round free agent guys, which Georgia's got the corner on in this game on that, but. I tell you, they got that quarterback, Fromm, who's playing out of his mind right now, and they got those two big running backs, and their offensive line is playing really good, and they're all young guys, except, they have the one guy who's going to play in the Senior Bowl, who's playing left tackle. He's really a guard, but, they're doing the job up there, but they're going to have their hands full against this Alabama crew.
Dan, I appreciate it as always. Get back to work. You shouldn't be taking off like this. You're just too busy of a man. And we need to get you back to work because you got to get that newsletter out. When's that going to be out, by the way, the newsletter?
Yeah, I tell you what. Yeah, it's going to the printer Wednesday. So
okay,
get hammering away.
And by the way, the guide will be coming out when exactly? Should fans be ready to get the guide out? In a couple months, right?
That first week in April.
First week in April, so that'll give everybody a good month to prepare. Excellent.
You
Dan,
bet.
I appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Greg. So long.
Thanks, Dan. All right, that's Dan Shonka. And, even though it's been it's been close to a month since we've had Dan on the show, we might be going, well, why isn't Dan he owns the website. What's he not doing on this show? Well, that's because I really want to give him a break because I'm going to make his life really hard for the next 4 months by trying to get him on as many shows as possible, because that's why the relationship works between me and Dan on the network, the Arledge Football Network, because I can fill in the gaps, but then once the season's over, then this is all about the draft, and that is really what Arledge has always been about first and foremost. I'm here to fill in the gaps before the season, during the regular season. But the regular season in college football ends tonight, or I should say the season ends tonight, and then the season ends in the NFL, of course. We have several more weeks to go there. But keep in mind, we are also coming up, starting this week, we're going to start our off-season reports in the NFL. 32 teams through the draft. We start with the Cleveland Browns. We're going to let you know real soon. As a matter of fact, that's why you want to follow us on demand at PrimeSN. That's our Twitter handle. You can also follow Dan, _Shonka, and we will always tweet out when these shows are available on demand, and we are going to have all 32 teams posted on the website at ourlads.com. We are also going to have interviews with analysts that experts that follow these teams on a daily basis that are going to talk to us and give us their opinion. And we're going to make sure that you have as much information to get you ready for free agency and the NFL draft. And I'm looking forward to it. So enjoy the game tonight. You know who we like. We've made that case, or at least, I think we have made ourselves a good case there for most of the season with Georgia. So we'll talk more about that later on in the week. But more importantly, as I mentioned, we're getting ready for free agency and the NFL draft. So follow us here on the Our Lads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL draft. We will see you next time. Enjoy the game tonight.